First off, thanks for being here, and just, a notable good job to everybody. This has been just a well-run event, particularly to Emma as well, Emma Coffin, who, as I understand, really ran this event for everybody. So as Joe said, off to Burkina Faso. This slide kind of sums up a lot of the presentation. It's a large deposit, very low cost is our outcome on the feasibility study. The real advantage is we have a large oxide cap on top of a sulfide ore body that's also been drilled off. The feasibility is completed. We've gone through a rigid environmental audit, and we are expecting an environmental approval in the coming weeks, and that would likely lead to the mining permit by the end of the quarter. So you're right at the cusp of what we think is going to put us into play. I am going to make forward-looking statements. You can read this at your leisure. All we report in U.S. dollars, so unless otherwise noted, these are U.S. dollars. So Bomboré, we kept this project after being taken over in 2008 by IM Gold. The largest mine in Burkina Faso is Essakane. It does 400,000 ounces a year, and that really was our project. We really didn't want to sell it, but it made for the best return for investors in the crash of 2008. We kept Bomboré in the deal. It was 500,000 ounces. We thought it had upside. We spent 3 years drilling it. We got up to 5 million ounces, and as the market rolled over, more ounces and low grade, as Joe kind of pointed out, became not the flavor of the month. And fortunately, we were able to re-gear what would have been a large single mine capex of around 500-600 million. We could scale it into building it in 2 phases. So this little cartoon shows you we've got 50 meters of oxide, 2 million ounces of M&I. Then underneath it, with only in 100 meters, we have 2.6 million ounces. But keep in mind, this is all open. The deposit is over 11 kilometers long. It's the biggest single footprint of any deposit in Burkina, and it's one of the largest in West Africa. Importantly, we've got this experience behind us. We've done this before. The team was on Essakane. Same team as here. We arranged $350 million in debt, which really is what ended up putting us in trouble in 2008. We were only in debt for 3 weeks when the market crashed around us. So unlike our peers, we've been trying to conserve our capital. As the market went down, we cut back our spending. We kept our group to just the simple few. It's still hard to think, that the market has become positive. We've spent really all of last year paring another $1 million out of our admin budget. So we're prepared to, and we're financed now to get this all the way through permitting, through a process of the debt facility. And of course, the CapEx to build this is about $250 million, and that is looking a little more realistic. Our market caps come up to 100, and we hope that we can achieve the $250 million market cap perhaps this year if the market keeps going. So shares outstanding, 127 million shares. There's no warrants. We actually have never done a warrant deal. Management owns about 10% of the company. Big institutions, Van Eck is about 12%, Sun Valley's 20%. Ross Beatty came in as a very big investor last year. Sprott is in this really through Rick Rule as an example. We're only trading about 100,000 shares a day, and I think that's a reflection of how tightly the stock is held. Carry on to the next. Yeah, so just a couple of notable names. Tim Miller joined us from Gold Corp a year and a half ago. He was really the vice president in charge of operations for all of South America. He had 7 years in Ghana in his early days, a real top-notch heap leach and operator. Pascal Marquis gets all the credit for developing Bomboré and Essakane. And on the board, you probably recognize Patrick Downey, and Joe Conway actually came to join us a year ago. He sat across the table from me when he took us over in the IM Gold days. Next slide. Burkina Faso, we've been there 20 years. There's been 9 mines built in the last 10. I don't think there's any other jurisdiction that's had that kind of infrastructure and discovery. When we got into Burkina, there was about 5 million resource ounces. It's now well over 60. And of course, they're very pro-mining. It's now become 20% of the GDP of the country. It's known as one of the easiest places to get a mining permit. It's not that they're giving them away. It's just they know how to bolster up the economy. Next slide. This shows you greenstone belts in the country. Essakane that I've mentioned, it's right up at the top, northern part of the country. The beauty of Bomboré is we're right on the highway, we're right outside the capital city. There isn't anything closer to the capital. This is a rare location anywhere in the world, let alone being in Africa. Go to the next slide. So I put this little movie in, trying to keep the time down. This really shows us a lot in about a 3-minute period. So the country is about 1,200 kilometers up from Ghana. Bondi is our other non-core asset. It's about 500,000 ounces. We're less than an hour down the highway, right on the main highway where all the goods come into the country. There's a 30 megawatt power line just south of the property. However, we are going to put gensets in because this is very low power requirement. Good drainage across the property. We've got a very large sedimentary belt that's got some intrusives in it, sills and dikes that are wrapped around an intrusive. Now you get to see the 11 kilometers of length. The ore body is a shear zone, so you have all these stacked structures, and we've drilled off about 450,000 meters of drilling in about 6,500 holes just in the surface profile. We've drilled it off to 25-meter centers at surface, 50 by 30 meter centers below. But keep in mind, you're seeing here now down to about 150 to 200 meters projected. We've only really drilled to 120 meters on average, and that's just because of the overall length of the ore body. So the real torque of the story lies in what's underneath. And we've got the benefit of, you're seeing very shallow pits here. The accommodation camp is about 65% complete. We've got a big office, a lab, a cafeteria. Most of it's in. It would take us 2 quarters to make this fully functional. We're now at the north end of the deposit, where the deposit is maybe about 70 meters deep. It's about 30 meters at the southern end. And you can now appreciate here how many lenses we have in a pit. This would be our water reservoir here that looks like a big open dish. So we mine that first, stockpile the ore, and the river just fills up that pit for a 3 million cubic meter reservoir. Now as we approach the plant, we stockpile the ore. We're going to put it through a scrubber. So instead of just a straight heap leach, we're going to wash out the fines, which is normally problematic to a heap leach. The fines go then into a thickener and a set of tanks, which is the guts of a CIL system. The coarse wash gravel that comes off the screen after that scrubber now goes out to the heap leach pad, which you see in the background. That heap leach can go up to 60 meters high without any cement agglomeration. So we've really taken a heap leach, what would be normally risky with fine and cement. We've reduced it to a very low risk, great percolation without any interlift liners. And of course, anything that goes into the tanks, it leaches in 12 hours and we get better than 90% recovery. So we're getting the best of both circuits. It does cost a little more to put the tanks in, but because we know we have a sulfide ore body underneath that's ready to go, now all we have to do is add a ball mill, a crushing circuit, a couple more leach tanks, and we can go from about 135,000 ounces a year up to 200 when gold prices say 1,400 or higher. I'll just note some exploration potential. The image on the right, the hot color is 0.5 gram in soils. The black are the pit shells that I showed you in the mine plan, but the half ellipse underneath the legend at the south end of the ore body, we drilled there about 1.5 years ago. We were hitting 3 gram material. There's no oxide there, but the zone continues, and I think every hole in the program hit. So as we talk about expanding to sulfides, not only are we ready to put out a pre-feasibility within 2 quarters that in theory should double the value of the project at 1,400, we can also start drilling and adding to a 3 gram zone, which would probably be where we would start processing the sulfides in the newly expanded plant. So there's a lot more, to this story than just an oxide zone. This slide kind of shows you the torque. We did the oxide resources at $1,100 gold, but you can see underneath the blue line, that whole projection to depth, visually and conceptually, there's a lot more there than just that 10-year mine life of oxides on surface. And the pit that you see there is a $1,400 pit shell. So just to show you an idea of cash flow, What goes to Orezone is the red line. What goes to the government is the burgundy line. It's roughly about a 60-40 split, and this is just pure taxes and royalties. At $1,200 gold, it's 40 million net cash flow. When you go to 1,500, the NPV jumps up to over 300 million. And again, this is just for the oxides, and our cash flow jumps up to about 70 million net cash flow per annum. So to sum this up, it's a multi-phase project. We're way undervalued compared to most of our development peer group just for the oxide alone. Most of those don't have that sulfide ready to go. The permitting is coming within weeks, and we've got that expansion potential with the drilling to follow very shortly. So for a market cap of our size, we've always had great coverage, partly because of the takeover in the past, partly because I think the group knows we want to build this thing and we're a bit allergic to debt. The idea is to get the stock well over $2 and raise more equity than debt to build this mine if we get there. But as Joe points out, we're becoming an endangered species, having a big deposit, one of the few left standing. And the stock price there, I put on a 5-year stock chart just so you wouldn't get altitude sickness looking at the 1-year stock chart. We're really just starting to come back up to where we were $5 a few years back. Thanks very much for your attention.